Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Amy, also known as Knits here on YouTube. If you've been following me for a while, you know I love to talk about all things knitting. Today's video, however, is going to be focused on everything that I crocheted in 2022. Thank you all for joining. So like I said before, I mostly knit. I do a lot of knitting, but I do appreciate the craft of crochet and I've dabbled in a few projects myself, and I wanted to share what I made last year when I got the inspiration to crochet. My volume of crochet projects is not nearly as high as knit projects. I still feel called more to the needles than the crochet hook. However, I did want to share what I made. I would say my experience level with crochet is maybe intermediate beginner. I think most of the projects that I'm going to show today are kind of on the beginner level, maybe like intermediate to advanced beginner. So if you're also on that level for crochet, I would recommend any of these projects that I'm about to share. My inspiration to crochet mostly comes in the spring and the summer. I kind of associate the craft with the warm weather, and the stitches tend to be more friendly towards, you know, warm weather projects and accessories, especially like beach accessories. So you'll notice that theme with a lot of the projects that I'm going to share. I also really love crocheting with cotton, and cotton is a warmer weather fabric and fiber. So that's also why a lot of the projects I'm sharing with you are warmer weather themed. So the first project that I made last year is the Wildrose Shoulder Bag. This is a pattern that's free on the All About Me blog by Stephanie Lau, and this really kickstarted my crochet year last year. So this is a granny square bag. It is a shoulder bag, so the strap is pretty long, so you can wear it crossbody. And it's made out of 15 granny squares. The granny square pattern is called the Wildrose Granny Square. You can see it's made of mostly puff stitches to create this really dense granny square. So you make the 15 granny squares separately, you block them, and then you assemble them all with sort of a slip stitch seam that has a sort of depressed ridge on the outside, but on the inside it's a raised ridge. So it's not a flat seaming process. Let me flip this inside out so you guys can see. It's not a flat seam, it is sort of raised, and it brings together the granny squares pretty well. So this is the inside of the bag. You can sort of see the seaming process. The instructions in the pattern are very detailed, so if you've never seamed together granny squares or made a bag with this construction, definitely really easy to follow, very clear. She might even have a video, I don't remember, but there's definitely very detailed photos on there. You assemble all of the granny squares together, and then you attach the strap. So you actually crochet the strap and this top edging of the bag all together, which adds a lot of structural support because the strap is not just pulling on this corner, it's sort of attached to the entire edge here. So I really liked this bag. I actually wore it a lot over the summer last year. I pretty much just tossed my phone and my wallet in here because you can see it has holes, so things like chapstick and maybe even keys would fall out. So I would want to add sort of a lining to this bag. However, sewing in fabric linings terrifies me. I'm not a great sewer. I do have a sewing machine, but I just have no experience with making shapes out of fabric. So that's an endeavor that I may or may not go on this year to sort of finish up this bag. But super cute. I will talk about the yarn. I made it in Lily Sugar and Cream, which is a 100% cotton yarn. I think I picked it up at Michael's. It's pretty much available for pretty cheap at any like big box craft store here in the US. This is the color Soft Ecru. I think I used about 3 balls to make this bag. I can't remember though. I could have used 4. And it's crocheted on a 2.75 millimeter hook. Yeah, I will say I did get pretty exhausted of granny squares towards the end of this project, although I love the look of finished granny square bags. It's kind of a push to get all those squares done, and then you have to weave in all those ends, and then you have to attach the whole thing together. So definitely a pretty involved project compared to a lot of like seamless knits that I've done during the year, but I'm really happy with the end result. The next project that I crocheted is also a bag. So this is the Portofino Bag by Two of Wands. This is also a free pattern on her blog. So this uses sort of like a netted pattern to create this really nice sort of beachy tote. A lot of the pattern photos are on the beach, so it's sort of advertised as a beach tote, and I really enjoyed this pattern. I made this with Lion Brand 24/7 cotton in the color Coffee Beans. The pattern uses a 3.75 millimeter hook, and you crochet the base in sort of a rectangular shape, and then you make the sides of the bag in that rectangular shape, sort of in the round going all the way up. The bag has this really nice sort of netted pattern, but it does have some stripes going across it at both the base. So this is the bottom here, if you guys can see. Let's see, there we go. So the bottom has this thick band of stitches going across it, and then the sides have that thick band that follow into the straps, which make this really nice looking bag. I think it looks really professional. I feel like it's one of those bags you can't tell if it's handmade or not. So I really like the pattern, and the edging really finishes it off nicely. So I used this bag a lot when I went on my honeymoon to Hawaii. This is like the perfect beach bag to bring because of all the holes. You know, the sand falls right through it. The Lion Brand 24/7 cotton is a great beachy yarn to use because you can get it wet, but then you can also put it in the wash in the dryer and it comes out completely fine. Now, this bag by nature does stretch a lot when you fill it with stuff. So right now, I'd say it's pretty like compressed, but when I filled it with like a beach towel and then sunscreen and then like a book, this bag was like sagging. Like, I'm trying to stretch it out to show you guys, but it definitely sags a lot, and it doesn't really have that like structural shape that like a regular tote bag would have. That might not be crochet and not be knit, but that's just the nature of the craft and bags that you make with that craft. So if you added a lining, it may keep its shape a little bit better, but then you lose sort of like the benefit of having the open holes to let the sand fall through. But like I said before, because you can put it in the washer and dryer, it actually shrinks back up to the original size as soon as you wash and dry it. So it did get super stretched while using it, but just to run through the wash and dryer, and it was like brand new after that. So I really like this pattern. There is a matching water bottle holder that I have not made, but I think it's really cute set. Definitely love the yarn as well. This bag is also super packable. Like, you can fold it and it compresses into this, you know, small little compact piece that you can easily throw in your suitcase or luggage for any trip that you're going on. Now, this next project is actually knit. I wanted to throw it in this video because I was talking about summer bags, and it's very similar to the bag I just shared. So this is the Pike Place Market Tote, and it's in this video maybe because I forgot to put it in my knitting video, but this is a knit pattern. It's by Bluebird Pine Shop, who is on Etsy and Instagram. I love all of her patterns. So this is sort of a knit rendition of the sort of netted fabric market bags that you see in stores, and also a lot of crochet patterns for. I was so excited to knit this up because it doesn't look knit. It looks very similar to a lot of crochet stitches. So you knit a big rectangle of this like mesh lace, which is pretty cool, and then the construction in the pattern tells you how to turn the rectangle into this like bag shape. It was very fascinating, very unique, very different. And then you knit sort of like the handles and the border all in one. So this bag is another type of bag where probably great for the beach. It's super big. Like, I'm not really showing the full size of it just because it's not filled with anything, but like it stretches a ton. I don't know if you guys can see like the volume changing. This is also one of those bags, you know, it's gonna sag when you fill it with stuff, but if you have issues with it stretching out, you can just put it in the wash and dryer again. I knit this in Lion Brand 24/7 cotton. You can see a pattern with one of my favorite cottons to work with in the summer, especially for home and accessory patterns. 24/7 cotton, it just comes in so many colors. It's super affordable. It's easy to pick up because for me, it's in stock at my Joann pretty easily, so you don't have to wait for shipping. And it's just super versatile. So I knit this in the color Ecru. It's this really nice off-white. I think this would be really cute in like any sort of color, like a blue or a green would be really nice. So there's the Pike Place Market Bag. The next project I'm going to talk about, I actually don't have to show you guys in person, but I'll overlay some photos of it. I made both the cabin and cottage cloths by 2 of Wands. Every year she releases 2 new patterns for dishcloths, knit also in the Lion brand 24/7 cotton yarn. And I made them both as gifts for a family that was hosting us for a trip. So it's a nice little housewarming gift. The cottage cloth is the knit pattern and the cabin cloth is the crochet pattern. So I'll talk about the crochet one first. It is made with front post stitches and it creates this very textured pattern. I knit it in the color granite of the 24/7 cotton. And it's very textured, very nubby, and great for dishes. The cottage cloth is the sister knit pattern, and it creates this really nice diamond shape with just knit and purl stitches, and I knit that in the color ecru. It was just really fun, like quick patterns, great giftable ideas. I found that the crochet pattern was not very blocking friendly. Like as I was crocheting it, because you're using only front post stitches, it tended to curl inward on itself because of all that tension towards the front of the fabric. And I did do a full soak and block to even it out and flatten it out, which definitely helped, but it was not like a perfect rectangle when I was finished. And for a dishcloth, I really wanted that crisp rectangular shape. However, with the knit pattern, it was super easy to create that very nice rectangular shape just because it's only knit and purl stitches. It didn't really curl on itself and it blocked really nicely. So I gifted those away earlier last year and I hope the recipient is enjoying them. Okay, so this next project I'm going to share is super exciting because it's actually a pattern that I wrote, got tested, and released all last year. And it's kind of funny because I am more of a knitter, but I somehow had the inspiration to create and release a whole crochet pattern. So this is the Summer Drink Cozy. So I wanted to create a piece that you could use to not only like insulate your summer drinks, but also to help with like that wet condensation that's just inevitable when you get an iced coffee, or if you're drinking like a can of soda by the pool and your hands get all wet from the condensation. So this sort of was the purpose of the pattern. So this is crochet. It's one of those patterns that I feel like was more geared towards crochet rather than knitting, which is why I chose crochet for it. And it's made in the alpine stitch, which is alternating front post stitches and regular stitches, which creates this beautiful nubby texture. The yarn that I use for this pattern is Lion brand Lazy Days, which I saw at Joann, and they sell it both at Joann still and on the Lion brand website, and it's this tubular polyester yarn, so it's very fluffy, it doesn't have plies, and so it creates very plump stitches. If you can sort of see, it kind of has similarities to Bernat Maker Home Deck, but it's a worsted weight yarn, so it's super versatile. They had a lot of cute colors. This is the color Pewter, which is like this purpley gray color. So the pattern is in the round, and it has a base for the cup, and then you continue on for the sides. It has 3 different sizes because I know people have all sorts of different drink preferences in the summer. So this is the, I believe, size 2, which is, no, this might be size 1. I don't remember the numbering, but it comes in 3 sizes, 1, 2, and 3. So we have a size for the slim cans that you might have in the summer, and it also fits the tall and grande Starbucks cups, and then the 3rd size fits the Venti and Trenta Starbucks cups. So super cute here. I use them a lot in the summer when I go out and get drinks. Although I normally make my own coffee at home, every once in a while I like to treat myself to a nice Starbucks drink or a Dunkin' drink. So these come in handy. I just keep a few in the glove box of my car and they work out great. This is the cozy off of the cup, so you can sort of see the shape here and the pattern texture. If you get 1 ball of the Lazy Days yarn, you can make 1 of each size. So a great stash buster also if you're not trying to buy new yarn. This uses a worsted weight. I would recommend like a cotton or a polyester. I would not really recommend maybe a wool for a cozy, but if you're trying to stash bust, then this is definitely a great pattern to use. Okay, so most of those patterns you can tell were smaller, sort of accessory-based patterns, probably me sort of building up my confidence in my crochet game. So as we went throughout the year, I thought I was ready for my first crochet garment. So I was also prepping for my honeymoon in Hawaii, which I mentioned earlier, and I needed a beach cover-up. So I made the Sandbar Cardi by TL Yarn Crafts or Tony Lipsy. So this is a crocheted cotton cardigan that is very like open, definitely meant for the beach. It's really long. I can't even get like the whole length on, I can't even get like the whole length on camera, but it's this nice oversized beachy cardigan, also knit in Lion brand 24/7 cotton in the color white. And I had a lot of fun making this. It definitely boosted my confidence in crocheting garments. This is a seamed piece, so you make 3 panels, 1 for the back and then 2 for the front side panels. And I really like the finished result. Super beachy in the color white and open. The stitch pattern is really nice. I'll show it up close if you guys can see. And you can also see the seam inside. I actually had kind of a good time seaming it with the crochet hook. I thought it was very relaxing and fun. So I wore this in Hawaii at the beach and it was great. Served its purpose as a nice cover up over my bathing suit. I was able to get it wet in like the ocean water and sandy and just throw it in the washer and dryer after I got home. One thing I will note about the 24/7 cotton is it's pretty dense. So this finished piece, I think, took 7 balls of the cotton and it's really heavy. And when this absorbs water, it gets even heavier and it stretches a lot. So when I finished the piece, I think it hit maybe right past my knees in terms of length, but when I was wearing it and I got it wet, it was sagging probably almost to floor length, which was maybe a little concerning. But after I washed and dried it, it sprang back up to its original size and was fine. But there is one note about the yarn. It is really like heavy and dense. So I think it's good for like a beachy concept like this, like a cover up. But if you were to knit like a full garment, like a regular wear t-shirt or tank, I would probably not knit it in the 24/7 cotton just because it's pretty stiff and heavy. But really liked it for this application and for this project. All right, the next project I'm sharing is this tank top that I made out of Lion brand Trubu in the color Mushroom, which is a 100% bamboo yarn, and you can see how flowy and shiny it is. Now, I don't really have a name for this tank because I used 2 different patterns and kind of made like a combined tank top. So 2 of Wands and Knits and Knots both have very similar patterns that use the same construction technique. So I originally started out making the Deco tank by 2 of Wands, which is made out of Trubu and has the same sort of silhouette in the final design. However, Knits and Knots pattern uses fingering weight yarn, but it has the same construction. And I kind of liked the finished look of the Knits and Knots pattern more. So I'll talk about what aspects of each pattern that I used to create this final tank top piece. And both patterns are free, so if you wanted to do the same thing, you could also take a look at their blogs and compare the 2 patterns. So 2 of Wands Deco Tank is made with Lion brand Trubu, which is the yarn that I used for this tank. So I used her stitch count as well as gauge to start off the project. Now you start off the project by making this front panel here. You sort of make the chain, which starts as the center point, and then you go around the chain and make increases at the top of the bust here, which creates this sort of triangular design. So I followed her stitch count and gauge to make sure that the tank was for my size. However, when I was constructing the tank, I used the Knits and Knots stitch pattern to create this shape. Now both patterns have a similar construction style, but the Deco tank has front post and I believe back post double crochet stitches, which makes a very defined line along the bust here, which I'll show in like a photo from her pattern page. But I wasn't really a fan of that design choice. So when it came to the increases along the top of the bust, I followed Knits and Knots pattern for that stitch pattern, even though I was using the gauge and the needle size from the 2 of Wands pattern. Another thing that I did different was with the straps. So 2 of Wands design had crisscrossing straps that I believe were crocheted like vertically. So I did not want those straps, so I decided to do the straps from the Knits and Knots pattern, which you can see is crocheted horizontally here, and they also don't crisscross in the back. I believe the back panels are crocheted the same in each pattern. It was just a rectangle that you connected to the two front panels, and I also left off the ribbing that Two of Wands has in her pattern. I just didn't really want that, so I left it off, which I guess would be following the Knits and Knots pattern, but it was also just skipping a part of the Two of Wands pattern. So that's how I made this tank. I really like this. I think the color is super cute. It was very comfy to wear. I also wore it on my honeymoon. It is a V-neck tank, which if you watched my knitting 2022 recap video, I knit another V-neck tank, the camisole number 4, and I was talking about how I didn't find it very wearable because the V-neck was too deep and the straps sagged. I did have similar issues with this tank top. The straps definitely stretched out a lot once I started wearing it, and then the V-neck became very deep, maybe too deep for my comfort level. So I probably only wore this once or twice, but I did throw this in the washing machine because it is machine washable, and because I was wearing it on my honeymoon, it was getting like sunscreen covered and like sweaty, so it definitely needed like a deep clean after we came back. So was super happy that this Trubu yarn is machine washable. It did add like a little bit of fuzziness to the yarn that you may or may not be able to see on camera, but it definitely had more of like a shiny glow before, and I would say now it has sort of like a matte finish after washing it. Oh, and I didn't even realize that there is an end sticking out that I need to pop back in. But anyways, so very cute pattern. Again, depending on your comfort level with like thin tops, it might not be that enjoyable, or it might not be wearable for you. I don't know if I'm going to wear this again next summer. Maybe I'll try and cut the straps and shorten them like I have to do with my knit tank. Because of the construction of this tank is sort of side to side, you can see how all of the rows go vertically. This does have the tendency to widen a lot once you wear it. It is also very cropped, as you can see, and you have to sort of pick the length of your tank when you initially make your starting chain. So that's one of the differences that is in crochet construction more so than knitting, because a lot of knitting is done top down. You can sort of adjust the length as you please, but with crochet, if you're making something with this sort of construction where the crochet rows go vertically, you do have to make sure you are casting on, are chaining the correct amount of stitches to begin with. So that's just something that I'm learning. You know, like I said before, I'm definitely beginner in crochet, still learning about different construction techniques and different styles of crochet, hoping to expand a little bit this year, which leads me to the last thing I'm going to talk about, which is my next crochet project. So I just got this book for Christmas. That's the Modern Crochet Sweaters book by Janine Miska, who's also known as Knits and Knots, who I mentioned before with her tank pattern. And I am super excited to start out with this cardigan here. This is the Lakeside Mist cardigan. It's a long line cardigan knit in worsted weight yarn. I had a sweater quantity of Lion Brand Feels Like Butter yarn that I was planning on knitting a long line cardigan with, but I was like, I just got this book, really want to dive into the pattern, so I'm going to repurpose that yarn. I'm not going to make the knit cardigan anymore, but I'm going to make this crochet cardigan. So I already made the gauge swatch, and you can see the stitch pattern here. Super cute, uniform, sort of textured stitch pattern. I don't know the name of the stitch pattern, but I really liked it. And I'm super excited for the yarn. It is like a very velvety, soft yarn. It is 100% polyester, and I'm more used to working with natural fibers, so I'm curious to see how that experience will go for me, but very excited to get into this big garment piece that I was sort of reading ahead of the construction and the shaping, and it's totally different from knitting, like a whole different world. So I'm very excited to learn more through it and sort of see how that ends up. So if you're curious to see my progress on this cardigan and hearing about what I'm learning while crocheting it, it's definitely going to be included in all of my future podcasts as a whip, as long as I'm working on it. So stay tuned for that. All right, so that's all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching. If you are just a knitter and you watch this video, thank you for sticking around, even though it was mostly crochet focused. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Bye.